And he says he will see everybody in Ohio. Let's unpack that a bit. First of all, the president expressed what people are feeling all around the world. I mean, if you're looking at your social media right now, you're seeing the memorials pop up in small and large ways after the death of Alexei Navalny. And so the president expressing his condolences and his outrage over the death at the hands of Russia. He said no matter how this man died, the greatest opposition, the most fierce opposition against Vladimir Putin, it was Russia. It was Russia. Now, in the meantime, an important question was asked. And Emily, that had to do with, you said there'd be consequences if anything happened. I'm going to ask the team if they have that ready for us to watch. Not yet. We'll rewatch it when we can. But his answer was that was 3 years ago.
I have to point out that when he expresses outrage and says, while there's no direct evidence, you know, I have no doubt it's Putin and his thugs, then he immediately says this is why the aid to Ukraine is so important. This is why we need to keep arming and equipping Ukraine to defend itself against Russia. And I underscore that because every dollar we have given to Ukraine has come with a condition that has only resulted in Ukraine being further hamstrung. Just like Israel, we have dictated that they cannot attack Russia on certain fronts, in certain cities. We have given them conditions with certain tanks and armaments and whatever. So we are essentially saying, here, be grateful for this, but this will not do the job. And in doing so, we further Putin's interests, just like we further Hamas's interests by his continued capitulation and telling Israel to calm down. I don't want to conflate the points, but just to say yet again,
no, but
our president, who is
true.
only afraid of a fear of escalation, is only succeeding in furthering Putin's interests. So his words, as always to me, ring hollow.
Yeah, so what you're talking about is a permanent state of stalemate.
Yep.
Which is also politically beneficial if you're running for re-election. I mean, however sad that may be. And the early Republican criticism of how we didn't do what we needed to do with Ukraine, if you'll recall, was that's only going to get us into a never-ending spot.
Yes.
And they were right. I want to ask you about Russian prisons, because Al Jazeera and at least one other report, we have no way of knowing exactly how he died yet in prison. But what's being put out there is that from the prison agency of Russia is that he went for a walk and felt unwell after that walk at this prison in the Arctic prison colony of IK3.
Yeah, so these are like these classic Siberian Russian prisons that God knows what goes on. It's so impenetrable and the conditions couldn't be more brutal. But one truism of pretty much any prison in the world is that at a certain point, the prisoners run the prison, not the authorities, because they're so outnumbered. So what does that mean? That means that for the authorities to try to execute, let's say, something that's very subtle, some sort of an operation against him, assuming that, let's say, they tried to poison him in prison or kill him in prison, they probably needed the complicity of some of the people around him. And the whole thing becomes very much like an intelligence operation, becomes very, very nested. And who knows what went on, but when you have thousands of prisoners, and you have a few hundred prison guards, the way the guards keep control of the place is by the intelligence that they're able to glean from other prisoners.
Rosanna, do you think that Russia fears anything that we would do?
Well, you know, it's funny. I'm watching the president, and this week there's been a lot of talk about his age and whether he's up for the job. And he seemed very strong, but he had a moment there. We all kind of gasped. We didn't know if he lost his place, if he was going to...
we can watch it. Let's watch it real quick, and we'll come right back to you. All right, team says we have it. Let's look.
You know, we have to realize what we're dealing with Putin. All of us should reject the dangerous statements made by the previous president that invited Russia to invade our NATO allies if they weren't paying up. He said if an ally did not pay their dues, he'd encourage Russia to, quote, do whatever the hell they want. I guess I should clear my mind here a little bit and not say what I'm really thinking, but let me be clear. This is an outrageous thing for a president to say. I can't fathom from Truman on, they're rolling over in their graves hearing this.
Was he really trying to say the right thing, or did he have a senior moment there? And we all got so worried for him. So, but what does this say to the world? What message when the president gets up there and either loses his train of thought, has a moment where it was so uncomfortable for the rest of us to see him? Was he going to make it through? We didn't know what was going to happen to him. But then he composed himself and went on.
I'm glad we played it, because that was more than just a couple of seconds, Rosanna. But to have him acknowledge, let me get my mind. I mean, for him to actually speak in that moment about his mind not being focused.
Maybe he just wanted to say the right words.
It took a minute.
Even so, it took a minute.
Not exactly 60 seconds,
Yeah.
but it took longer than a few.
Rosanna, you are such a diplomat. God love you. I think that this was I don't think that this could have gone worse for the president, especially after the Robert Hur report and everybody really focusing in on his mental capacities. And if he can rise to these major occasions and then to have this moment that will get played over and over again here and on social media. And it's not just people in this country that are watching, it's people all over the world. And also for him to come out and then not announce any action for this, saying that Russia has faced consequences over the past 3 years. Alexei Navalny didn't die 3 years ago. He died.
He died today.
Well, at least it's been reported today. So no sanctions, no action. Why not?
He just suspended.
Why make that
our
speech if you're
liquid
not
natural
going to,
gas.
if Russia's not going to face any consequences?
There's something he could have done right there. He just suspended our exports of liquid natural gas. Right there, he could say, we're going to resume that, and that undercuts the Russian economy. Very simple.
Yep.
No wonder Putin wants him to win again. It's not because it's because he's his ally in everything he does and everything he doesn't do.
Well, weakness will make you look like somebody's friend. Mm-hmm. Because when you don't oppose them, they get confused. They get it twisted. We need to remind Russia, we're not friends.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.